where our lawsuit is right now. So, the opposing counsel has filed some papers, so now we have to file papers in response to them. So actually the lawsuit is starting to roll now. So we think that's a positive thing, and Daniel feels pretty confident that we should win the court case. But if, you know, this next part, if we lose this part, we'll appeal it, and then we'll go to court about it. And the same thing for them. If they lose this next part, they'll appeal it, and then we'll end up going to court. Or they'll want to compromise with us, and it's basically the land across the street. So we're really not sure how many houses, you know, that they're going to be given across the street because of their donations. But we think that the houses will be based, you know, the number of houses they get will be based on the number of acres that are still left. So we think around 125 houses are going to go in across the street, which is down pretty significantly from the 257 houses they were awarded. So that's kind of where we stand with that. But, you know, none of that is like official numbers until, you know, they get down to the nuts and bolts of it. So one of the things is, you know, Thunder Mountain is really trying to push through these last two rezonings. So we have a rezoning down on Evans and Sevierville Pike. They want 120 houses, and the planning commission, the staff has recommended 5 houses per acre there. We think it's outlandish that they would do that right in the middle of Dry Hollow. Again, it doesn't really fit with the community. So that's going to be decided and voted on the 19th of August. So it's very important that everybody in this room show up that night. And if everybody in this room could grab 2 more people, we'd have 100 people, and that would be what we need to really get them to stand up and listen to what we have to say about it. The big issue is the ball field. So I just want to give everybody kind of an overview of what's happened with that. So Thunder Mountain got approved behind the ball field. The White School Road property is what I call it. It's the hill behind Bowers Field. They got 330 units approved, which is just ginormous, you guys. Those people are going to have to cross over Chapman Highway, you know, 10 times per household every single day. There's no stoplight for 2 miles. We really feel like this is going to really inundate our community with lots of, traffic, lots of accidents, lots of near accidents, you know, right there where the ballpark is right now. So, anyway, but they did already get that approved. And now what they're asking for is the ball field to be turned from a ball field into commercial space over there. And, you know, they've used that ball field very strategically through this whole process. They used the ball field and the lease in order to get the county commissioners to vote for the approval of the housing across the street from us. They used it then, they got the lease, and now a year later, they want to rezone over there, and they're using the ball field again. So they've donated the land over here, which is really a swamp. I mean, you can ask Brad, he was the tenant farmer there. That area, it floods every single year. They can't grow crops on it, they can't do anything on it. It's really a useless piece of land. They couldn't build houses on it either. They got approval to build those houses, but they would never have been built on that property over there. It really is a swamp. So it's really a bait and switch for our community, because the remediation that's going to have to happen on that land over there, there's 2 things that are going to happen. They're going to have to do a big drainage system, and they're going to have to bring, I'm guessing, between 8 and 10 feet of soil across 20 acres to make that, just get us to 0 for the ball field to actually be built on top of that. So all that being said, you know, the estimates that are being thrown around, and they're estimates, you know, good faith as they are, they're, you know, just based on people's opinion, but people are saying between $15 and $20 million to build that ball field. You guys know, there's no way that's going to happen in South Knox. They don't have the funding for a new school. They don't have funding to improve other ball fields. Where are they gonna come up with this $15 or $20 million to build this new ball field? That's a lie, I can tell you. It's just being used as a bait and switch. So we're gonna donate this land over here, but you know, it's not really a gift because they're getting $3.2 million in tax write-off, okay, to donate that land. So they've already profited from that land. They got the housing, and now they got this pot of money, and then they're using that to get an approval for the commercial on Bowers Field. We really feel very strongly that that vote should not happen on the 19th, that it should wait for Andy to come on board as our new commissioner, who actually will be representing our community, unlike our current commissioner. Yay! We're gonna have a very strong voice in Andy, who's gonna shepherd, you know, this through for us if we can get a delay and a postponement on that vote on the 19th. They're gonna try everything in their power to ram it through because they've got Carson and they've got a whole cadre of, you know, positive votes for developers. Those people have been voted out of office or are retiring, and the people that have replaced them are much more in line with us as it relates to land use. So we need as many people to show up on the 19th as possible so that we can get them to delay it, and then the following meeting is when the real decisions are gonna happen. So, any questions that you guys have?
If they're wanting to make the ball field, the current ball field into commercially zoned property, they're proposing to put the ball field over here.
Yes.
On the back quarter. What's that, has anybody looked at traffic projections?
They haven't looked at anything, and that's part of what our point's going to be. You know, Andy and I talked a little bit about this. You know, we just got a brand new growth plan approved, and we're gonna already change it. You know, we don't think that they should be doing that. You know, we've waited a long time for this new growth plan. We've got the new growth plan. Let's stick with the plan.
Yeah.
That's how we feel about it. And it, you know, if we're gonna take a look at this, we think that there's some key things that actually should happen prior to any vote happening. We should have an engineer look at this ball field, the potential ball field, a hydrologist. Let's get a report from each one of those, and then let's hand that to a contractor, and let's get an estimate on what it's gonna take to actually do the drainage and do the fill that's gonna be required to get that ball field up, not the lowest point in the valley, it's gotta be up, you know, in order for it not to flood. We also think that there should be a sound, you know, engineer here too, because one of the things that's gonna happen with this ball field, I mean, I can hear the ball field over here, and it's on the other side of the hill. I can hear the kids cheering and whatnot, which is fine, but once it's here, it's in everybody's backyard, and we're in more of an enclosed area, so it's boing, 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 boing is how that sound's gonna happen. So there's gonna be a very big impact for our community with the sound, with the traffic. You know, we don't just wanna have an engineer, a traffic engineer, we want to have someone that really looks at the impact of the commercial as well as the residential on traffic. I think they're called a forensic traffic engineer. The forensic part is the key part. If you hire a regular engineer for this, they base their numbers on what the developers say.
Mm-hmm.
The forensic engineers, am I speaking this correctly? They actually look at it from a very different standpoint. So we think that those, you know, 5 things need to happen. An engineer to look at this property, a hydrologist to look at this property, a contractor to give us a price on what it's gonna take to do the fill and to do the drainage. We want sound engineer, and we want a forensic traffic analysis. Then let's talk.
Sounds good to me. So what is their plans for the Highland View shopping center, that's across the street? Because that's already zoned as commercial. Why are they not even looking into adding to or revamping that?
Well, Margie actually.
We asked that question.
Yeah, Margie actually drew up a design for them, you know, a proposed design that would actually maximize housing and maximizing and condensing, you know, some of the commercials so that it's all kind of together. Instead of, you know, some over here and some over here and some over here. Because we're in a pretty residential area here. We don't really want a bunch of strip malls, you know, some more used car, you know, parking lots. We don't really know what their plan is because they refuse to show us their cars. You know, Margie and I met with their engineer, and he said, well, we can't possibly show you any plans. Well, where we come from, they have to show plans at the beginning. This is what we're actually proposing. Here it's the opposite. You give us approval, and we'll show you later what we're planning on doing. We wanna know now. I've heard things that they wanna do section 8 housing over there. That the 330, you know, units, but you know, I asked him about it, and they're not even allowed to speak about this. Low-income housing, I guess it's, you know, it's an off-limits subject, but for us, our community, we wanna know who's gonna be moving into our neighborhood. And if it's gonna be all section 8 housing, you know, that makes a difference. You know, what kind of housing is it gonna be? Is it gonna be nice? Is it gonna be uplifting to our community? Everything we've heard so far is like crickets. Any other questions? Andy?
I know,
Oh, sorry.
I know the money situation, we know that it's not there.
Yeah.
And I can't even get anybody to say, the only person I've talked to that said that they might come up with $2 million for this is Legacy.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what she said. She said the rest would have to come from the county.
Yeah.
Well, we know that that's,
Yeah, the county
So
doesn't have the money.
I just wondered, and I don't know what would have to be done, I mean, laws would have to be changed and all, but it looks to me like with all these developers making these
Yeah.
millions of dollars
Yeah.
on each of their projects,
Yeah,
there ought to be some kind of infrastructure fee,
yeah.
tax, something that
That's how
these
it's done in other
developers.
states. In other states, that's exactly how it's done. You know, that's why Tennessee is kind of like the #1 place for this, you know, plastic housing going in everywhere. You know, inexpensive housing that's, nothing wrong with inexpensive housing, but it's not well done. You know,
I mean, the laws right now are against,
Yeah.
we're fighting a losing battle because
Yes.
there's no laws. There ought to be restrictions on sizes of subdivisions and how many
Right.
houses and wiping out trees.
Yep.
And right now, the city has a buyback tree program. Well, why buy back a tree? Quit tearing down the ones that are out here already.
That's exactly.
If
Yeah.
you buy a piece of property and it's 50% woodland,
Yep.
then only 20% or 25% can be taken out. Leave the rest. Y'all
No
need to-
kidding.
Well, there's a difference between a tree and a forest. When they cut down 3,000 trees over here, I mean, I about had a heart attack when they started slamming those things down with a front end loader. And, you know, we were told that they're not allowed to do that they can only do it by hand. And they were using big equipment just to plow the trees down. And I'm like, you can't even build there. That's where the water comes through on the property. It's there's a marshland that runs along Sevierville Pike. Just leave that screening. You know, we offered to do a landscape design for them, but I said, you have to stop knocking the trees down, and they said, no, we're not gonna do that. So, I don't really know what to say about it, but I'm in full agreement with you that a buyback, one tree for one tree isn't really, they're gonna buy like a little teeny skinny little tree and they're gonna put that in the ground and that's gonna, suppose to replace what they knocked
There could easily be
down.
money there, infrastructure money from
Yeah.
these developers,
Yeah.
if they take a certain percentage of what their
Yes.
profits are gonna be.
That's how it's done in other states. I mean, it's a done deal and it's a known deal. Kim actually went to Nashville to discuss some of these things, and she was turned down flat by the Republican Party. This is something for us to really grapple with. You know, the Republican brand has been very damaged in this whole process. They actually act a lot like the people in California that we ran away from. You know, one-party rule has them feel very confident in themselves and their ability to do whatever in the heck they want to do to us. But I think this election really showed, you know what, people that have with this, and our representatives had better start representing us, not representing these developers. We actually matter. The current citizens and the residents of these areas, they're decimating our community, you guys. You know, 700 houses, you know, in this small community, we right now only have 255. You know, this is a tsunami of growth. And then to put the ball field and the kids' future at stake in the whole thing is really an abomination. And our county commissioners are going to say yes to this unless we stand up. And you can't call it in. You gotta show up at that meeting. And people in our community, I know people work, it's hard, but that's the only thing that they listen to. And Carson Daly has spent a lot of time and a lot of money taking down every sign that I put up around town for saving Bauer Field, because he doesn't want people in our community to know what's going on. You know, this is my free speech that's been impinged upon by a Republican. We should be ashamed of ourselves allowing this to go on. You know, I had a sheriff pull up in our driveway to give me a summons.
What's the status on that, Dawn?
You know, I keep calling to find out what the fine is, and I can't find out what the fine is.
We owe them money.
Yeah, we owe them money, so. But that's Carson did that, you guys. You know, I don't have fingerprints on it, but he called the day before and hung up just to verify that it was my number, and the next day the sheriff called me. So I can extrapolate who the person was that turned me in, and it's Carson. And we have some elderly gentleman, every time we put signs up, that evening those signs come down. There's not a single sign left up in our community, so people don't know what's going on, and it's by design. So we have to flap our lips. That's the bottom line.
Are they not considered political signs?
They're not. But I consider it my political speech as much as, you know, the signs put out by the candidates.
Well, the signs that you had out here,
Yes.
they said was not on your property, but on your property.
Yeah, well, this is what they find me for, because they don't, you know, I mean, they don't know who's putting signs in town. I mean, it's me and a number of other people, but, you know, unless they catch me on camera doing it, they can't really find me for those. But, you know, if there was a sheriff, they didn't say anything to me, they just came through and took down some signs. And it's not the sheriffs that are at fault here, they're just doing their job. But, you know, I have inside information from higher ups in the sheriff's department that said there is a concerted effort by a number of county commissioners to get these signs taken down. So it's lawfare on a small scale, but it's lawfare nonetheless. They're using the rules against us. And, you know, I want to challenge them inside of, that's my political speech. But the law is the law, the rule is the rule, the ordinance is the ordinance. I can't win it based on my opinion. But they're using that to silence us. And we should be fully enraged. I am. I mean, how dare they take my signs down? I want the people in Seymour, these people, they send their kids here to play ball. They need to know what's going on. You know, it can't just happen like in front of my house. More people need to see the signs than just what passes by my house. Anyway, Andy, come on up. Sorry. You know, Debbie Downer is done.
All
Thanks,
right.
Debbie. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, we wanna hear what you think,
Okay, well,
yeah.
do you wanna hear the short version or the long version? The long
version.
version, no one got, okay. Well, the long version, I'll let you know that, just a couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with a former county commissioner who's still in elected office, and, he said, he was like, you know, I know your position on development, Andy, and I just want you to know that there's like, it's either tax rate or development, tax rate or development. So I want you, and I think this goes back a long way. Commissioners, elected officials are concerned about there being enough funding for government services. And that's the bottom line. They want to make sure there's enough money for law enforcement, that there's enough money to do all the things that people expect government to do. And sometimes people have difficulty connecting that tax dollars do equate into government functions. You have to have money. And so commission, now maybe some people's views are out of balance. They're not, they get tunnel vision about, we gotta raise money, we gotta raise money. And so that leads to overemphasis on development, for instance, or, you know, perhaps raising taxes. So, you know, it may not be this nefarious thing going on. I don't know. Okay, I'm new to this dynamic, right? You all have lived it for a lot longer than me. But my point is, it may not be this nefarious conspiracy of people that are trying to, do you in, but people that get overly concerned about Knox County in the future having enough money to meet its obligations. Okay, it could be as simple as that. You know, there's an old, well, I won't get into that Hamlet's razor. But, so, I think, however, that there is a lot of money right now being given to third parties, people that are not a part of core government functions, like law enforcement and schools and roads. You got people, some of the causes are good, like the Boys and Girls Club. They're getting money from Knox County. The Child Help, getting money from Knox County. So you got all these people getting money that are for good causes. But for instance, the Chamber of Commerce is getting $1.2 million from Knox County. Now, I know somebody who used to be in charge of a Chamber of Commerce in another town, and it was completely self-funded. The local municipality did not give money to the Chamber of Commerce. I don't know why we're giving money to the Chamber of Commerce. I oppose giving money to the Chamber of Commerce. To me, that's just a handout. And they'll say, well, we help bring business to Knoxville. I'd like to see studies. But that's a particular agency, local agency, I don't think we should be giving tax dollars to. I think if they're so great at commerce, they ought to be able to get their members to raise the money to support their organization, right? The Knoxville Bar Association, we don't get money from Knox County. The members pay for all the services of Knox County. The Tennessee Bar Association, I don't think we get money from the state. I could be wrong. Maybe I should check first. But you know, the members of the Tennessee Bar Association support that organization, and they lobby that organization, just like I guess the Chamber of Commerce lobbies Knox County government. I don't see why we should be paying somebody that lobbies the government. So. And then, of course, Visit Knoxville is another organization that gets over $4 million. Yeah, over $4 million. Now, they got to get some money because the law requires, or they don't have to get some money. The law requires money from Knox County that's earned from hotel tax to be provided to organizations that promote tourism. And so that's just the one that's kind of, they all along have been the recipients of this. It doesn't have to be Visit Knoxville. But my real problem with that is they don't even have to give Knox County a budget. You know, every agency that gets money within Knox County government has to give a very detailed budget. So the commissioners can say, well, we agree with this expenditure, we don't agree with this expenditure, but it's all there in black and white. You can't do that with Visit Knoxville. So there might be expenses within that budget that Knox County citizens, South Knox County citizens say, we don't want our tax money spent on that. That's not helping our community, that's serving special interests. And I believe that's the case. And so I would like to look at helping, at the same time while we are holding down development a little bit, we can supplement the county budget by taking away from people that really shouldn't be getting tax dollars. But that's my solution. I'm not in it yet. I've not gone through a budget cycle. That's my bright-eyed and bushy-tailed idea to fix things. Okay? But I do think that the heydays of development are over. And I've had this conversation with a developer or two. In fact, there's a developer who's given me money that I've had this conversation with. And when he heard what I had to say, he said he gave me money to support my campaign. How about that? A developer who put the community, Knox County community's interests above his own pocketbook. That's admirable. And my message is, if we continue to develop the county as we have for the past 4 decades, it's not going to be the same community. So if you're a developer that lives in this community, what you're putting upon your grandchildren is something that you wouldn't want. You don't want Knox County to be fundamentally transformed, and that's what we're on the cusp of. So it's not that I'm against development, just for the sake of being against development. There may be some places in the county where high density development is still, maybe it's advisable. But my real problem is buying tracts zoned agricultural and then running down and getting land rezoned, or even if it's maybe a permitted use is a higher density than one dwelling unit per acre, getting the downtown government bodies to give the highest density possible within a permitted use. That's what I have a problem with, and that's what I seek to suppress as your county commissioner. Okay. That doesn't necessarily address this particular problem. That just addresses down the road my philosophy about how we need to handle Knox County in the future. I do want to point out one other thing too, that I can't remember her name. There's a woman who she believed that the 2008 recession would take place. So she's an economic analyst, is what she is. And she made a recent statement that she believes that this idea that we're in a housing shortage, which right now, I mean, housing is, there's a little bit of a crush on housing across the country. She believes, though, that the projections that are being made with regard to future housing problems is inaccurate because of the demographical change that has taken place over the past generation. I'm a Gen Xer, and I followed the standard model, right? I got married, I had 3 kids, and that was kind of the model of generations before. But millennials and Gen Zers, they're not following that model. They're not having children at the same rate. And so you may see what's happened in Japan begin to happen in the United States. Right now, Japan, they have a glut of housing because they haven't had younger generations to come fill all this housing that was built in the past. And that could happen. So when people are saying, well, Knox County is going to grow another 50,000 people in the next 20 years, and that's not, I'm using that as an example. That's not the actual statistic, but that could be wrong. It could be because the younger generations are not coming in, that we're not going to grow at the same rate. So we just need to, I think we need to be circumspect and step back and be much more thoughtful about things, but I believe the heydays are over. Now, as far as what's going on here, and I told you that was the long story. I gave you the long side. So just know a little bit about me and where I'm coming from. When it comes to Bower Field, to me, there is no rush on Bower Field either. If there's a 7-year lease, we got plenty of time to figure this out. Why are we trying to cram in all this change right now? And it doesn't make sense because just 3 or 4 months ago, Advanced Knox was passed, And Advanced Knox states that if you look at the land use designation for Bauer Field, it's parks and open space. So they just got done, the government bodies just got done saying, yep, in the future, this is the highest and best use of this particular tract of land. Now 3 months later, they're saying, oh, yeah, never mind.
Never mind.
And by the way, also, if you look, there's a master plan for parks for all across all of Knox County. That's a special part of Advanced Knox, and Bauer Field's listed on there. And in fact, the people who did this study, who put Advanced Knox together, had all these improvements for Bauer Field planned, including upgrading the commissary, the
Yes.
Concession stand.
confession stand. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Was this
So-
before Thunder Mountain owned that property?
No.
Well, Advanced Knox just got done.
Okay.
So Thunder Mountain's owned it for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's very curious that all that effort went into this future land use planning, and yet
Just ignore it.
right now they're going back to saying, oh, we need to go back to the well and change that. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to give the long version in front of the county commission on August 19th. I'm going to give the short version, which is what I just articulated, that I don't understand why there's this effort to get this done so quickly. We have a 7-year lease. There's plenty of time to make sure that the Dry Hollow community and all of South Knox County, I mean, I'm in Woodhaven, but that's where my kids played ball, was in Bauer Field, to make sure that we're not getting handed a pig in a poke. Y'all are worried we're getting handed a pig in a poke, and it could be even so bad that when you look in the poke, there's not even a pig in it, right?
Yep.
There's nothing. It's just scrub land.
Well,
So-
if we're gonna spend $15 million, you know, we already just got done spending $3 million, you know, on a tax break for them. Wouldn't we be better off buying a piece of land that's well suited for a ball field, that we don't have to do all this
Remediate,
remediation?
yeah.
Maybe the ball field, you know, ends up only costing us, you know, $8 million. We buy the land, it's already ready, and it's in a better situation where it's not in someone's neighborhood. And, you know, it's, you know, well suited for what the purpose is. But they're not taking their time. It's like someone gives them something, and so they just run around like chickens with their heads cut off. Oh my God, we got something for free. It wasn't for free, and it's not very well suited for this whole, you know,
What is the $3 million tax break you're mentioning?
they got $3 million tax break for donating the land.
Thunder Mountain
Right,
did.
right, okay.
So
Right?
it's not a gift, you guys. When you get $3.2 million, that's not a gift.
Right.
You know, they were paid handsomely for it, through a tax write-off.
There's no funding for any
Yeah.
of it. Who's paying for the infrastructure for, how many houses did you say we're going in? Total.
Over here, no
Here,
one,
there.
no one.
Here.
And I do wanna challenge you just on one thing, it's not a
Okay.
challenge to you, but someone at UT did a study, and they said that this whole thing about, you know, construction leads to more tax dollars for a community. They said, like an average home, that someone comes in, a brand new home that's being built by D.R. Horton or wherever, that house and those taxpayers, it takes 20 years of tax paying on that home to pay for the infrastructure that they cost the county. And
Yeah.
Daniel has confirmed this. He's, you know, and he was the, you know, attorney for the county. He said the development is actually bankrupting Knox County.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I've heard more like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
6 or 7.
Which is still, yeah.
So
but-
this person did an actual study. I don't
Okay.
remember their name. I can
Yeah.
find out for you.
Yeah, I'd love to get that information.
Yeah, because, you know, that's the whole thing. Like, you know, Rick said, we should be charging a tax to them so that right at the beginning, that it's not costing the, you know, we're already taking it in the shorts. We don't want this development in our neighborhood. And then on top of it, there is going to be a tax increase. That's going to happen.
Well, I'm voting no. I've already
Yeah.
gone on the record saying
Good.
it ain't gonna happen.
Well,
but
there's
they'll have to
a
beat
number
my
of
vote.
bonds that they did that are gonna be
Right.
coming due in about 2 years. As soon as
for sales tax, but it's gonna have to be paid for somehow.
Right.
That's how I know there's no way they're coming up with $15 to $20 million. We don't have the money. It's just not a possibility. This is not gonna happen. You could take that to the bank. You know, this pig in a poke, not gonna happen.
Yeah. And what I was relating was just the conventional
Yes.
wisdom that
Yes.
was related to me. I'm not saying
I'm
that
not
I endorse that.
challenging you
Yeah,
either.
yeah.
You know, I chose
Yeah, yeah.
poor words.
Well, I mean, don't we call that a Ponzi scheme if we have to sell more houses to support the last houses?
Yeah.
Possibly, but what we're talking about are impact fees, okay, that's what
Yes.
these are called. And
Yes.
right now, the state government has made it, unlawful to impose
Yes.
impact fees.
Yes.
But it's a fairly recent phenomenon. I think if you go back 30 years, impact fees were allowed.
Yeah.
I have to look at the statute again, I looked it up a few
It would be good
months
if,
ago.
we'd love to hear about that. I do know that when we went down to, what was the name of that place, Brad, where they do the sewer? They're actually gonna start charging fees, you know, Knox, Chapman. They were talking about starting to charge fees to developers. Cause in other states, you guys, the reason they've all come to Tennessee is Tennessee is so lax on all of this. I mean, if you go to, you know, Highland View, that recent development up there, and you just look at how poorly that development is built. You know, they have big transformers in front of everyone's house, and they have the big drainage that is in everyone's backyard. There's not a single tree planted, there's no landscaping done. That just tells you the developers are in the driver's seat. The
We're already having
residents are not.
problems in some of those houses too.
I can imagine.
The one thing, I work in Sevier County, and they are actually having to ship their trash out. They don't have anywhere to put their trash anymore
Wow.
in Sevier County. And they're starting at the end of this month, you can only take 5 bags a day to the trash dump. You're only about 5 bags a day, because they don't have where to take it.
Wow.
Knox Chapman is very proud of the fact that they're going to charge $1,500 per dwelling. And
But
they're
at
proud
least
of
it's
that.
something, you guys, because right now we're paying for all of it.
Yeah.
We're paying for it.
Well, what has to change, or what has to be done, how that has to go into,
We'll have to pay
for,
Knox Chapman $1,500
for
a house.
the
and in other
developer to
states,
have to pay it.
Yeah, well, and what, I'll tell you, what's, to me, it's puzzling because I look at an impact fee as just something that's passed through
Yes.
to the consumer. So, I don't understand why they're opposing it, but the only way it's gonna get fixed is for there to be a groundswell of support from Tennessee citizens to impose these, okay? There's gonna have to be a lot of grassroots support to reach out to Nashville and say, what's going on? You're bankrupting our community.
Exactly.
Current residents are having to subsidize new residents,
Yeah.
because the tax stream doesn't hit until so much later.
You know, whether it's
After they
6
move in.
years or 20 years, it doesn't matter. You know, the current citizens are paying for all of
Right.
this. And if you could, you just look around, I mean, our roads are not in good shape. And we've been in this huge development phase going on 20 years. Where's all the great infrastructure that's happened? It's not present. So I'm gonna assert that we're probably right, that the tax dollars are well behind what's really needed, you know, for schools, police, roads, fire, all of it. It's not getting paid for. You know, that's why it takes up to 2 hours to get an ambulance. You know, you guys, that's not funny. You know, that's not funny for our families, you know?
Can I ask a question? A couple of questions,
Yeah.
actually. So I'm gonna hit you all at One, has anyone noticed that this developer lives in Campbell County? He isn't developing Campbell County. He's developing Knox County. He doesn't want this mess in Campbell County. That's where he lives. Two, every time they make a big development, I remember when they brought Walmart to the old location, did y'all notice that they moved the city limits to Dishman's Curve? When they brought the new Walmart, they brought it to, Jonesville Highway. What are we gonna do when city annexes
this part of, and we're gonna pay city and county taxes, and I'm sorry, you all can tell me, now these people may believe it, I think it's a load of, but you can tell me that all this development is to keep taxes down, that's a load of bull, and none of us are that stupid to believe that. None of us. And if I have to live within a budget, why can't the county live within a budget? I can't go out and say, well, I'm just gonna, raise something just to, so I can fund something else. That's stupid, that's hard. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
can't.
Well, look, if you want me to address that, I'm reaching into things that I don't know as well, okay? So this is somewhat speculative. I do believe that, there is a growth plan that I think limits what the city can do.
I don't
Okay,
care, look,
yeah.
I don't care about, we're gonna,
Yeah.
people are gonna come to Tennessee because they hate the states that they're coming from, they're coming in. But you all need to understand, you've got different people with different political views, you're gonna change the political demographics of Knoxville.
I'm not speaking of that, I'm speaking to the city annexing. I don't think the city can annex anymore. They can't do finger annexations anymore.
That's
Okay?
correct, that's
Yeah.
correct. They've already gotten all the commercial that they can get, like when they built Food City at Mountain Grove, when they built Lowe's at Mountain Grove. The city gets all that sales tax. The county gets a portion of it, but the city gets a greater portion. And the city's already annexed all the way to Midway Road out east. They've gone all the way out off Pillsbury Parkway to the west. They've come all the way to Food City and south. So the city's done all they could. They've taken up all the retail sales tax that the county could get. But
Yeah, so
But it's
I don't,
Yeah, but don't they change, don't they change rules as it pleases them? I mean, so far they have they not?
well, they've signed an agreement, Knoxville, Knox County, and the city of Farragut have all signed an agreement about, that type of growth. And so one side can't unilaterally change it, right? That's my understanding. Okay, again, I'm speaking to things that I've not fully, been steeped in, so I'm still learning.
Okay.
Yeah, and I haven't been sworn in yet either, okay?
And I didn't mean to come off this big, I didn't mean to come off.
I'm still a candidate, right?
no, you're commissioner-elect.
Elect, okay. Yeah, I thought, maybe I should open up an office, the office of Commissioner-elect.
That's it.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Andy.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to come
No.
off this being very.
That's all right.
aggressive.
That's all right.
It's just that.
I'm a lawyer, I'm used to it.
You're repeating what every county person thinks.
Yeah. But now I will say that I've had people within the administration, the county executive administration, talk to me, a person, about how Knoxville has plucked a lot of fruit off Knox County's tree in the past 40 years. And so it is an imposition on the county. And so the county's, and that goes to what I was saying earlier, which is people are trying to come up with ways that Knox County will continue to be the great county that it is, right? And provide basic services that people expect. And that costs money. So, yeah, it's not an easy problem to deal with. But it may not just, it's hard when people don't have all the information. That's what leads to a lot of suspicion and theories about how did this come about. But I'm just trying to offer. I don't know, but I'm trying to offer alternative explanations for why we're seeing all this.
I kind of had a different idea on with all these developers, and especially some of these big builders, they are making a lot of money hand over fist. And I think that we should hold them publicly accountable. Like, we should actually require them, in a nice way, to fund this ballpark. And anyone that doesn't fund it, we'll let the public know. So if you're gonna be buying houses from, Horton or any of the other ones, some of them will donate to the ball being built, and then some of them won't, and we'll make a public list of who's donated to our parks and, to our recreation and to the community, because as far as I can see, they're not donating anything to anyone, anywhere. They're benefiting from, being in our community, but they're not benefiting us. And so maybe we should start requiring them to belly up to the bar and spend a couple $1 million on this ball field. If they all had to do it, we'd be well on our way to getting this ball field built. And if you look at the numbers for Thunder Mountain Properties, and conservatively, they're going to be making, and I'm talking profit to them, $100 to $150 million. I think they could actually forfeit that $3.2 million tax credit back to the pot to build that ball field. So there's ways that we can do this, but it's gonna take the will of our political class to start, squeezing down. You know what? Trump would have that conversation with those developers and say, you know what? You're gonna be doing business here. We need you, to benefit the community a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. These guys don't know how to negotiate. Really, these county commissioners, they think that they owe something to Thunder Mountain. They owe nothing to Thunder Mountain. Thunder Mountain cannot do commercial without the county commissioners' votes. That's the bottom line.
Why? I don't think anybody here is against development, as
No.
long as it's kind of thought out and planned out. This is not thought out. This does not go along with the community at all.
It is only greed.
Yeah.
They want as
Totally
many
is.
houses
And it's okay.
to make all the money.
Yeah, it's okay for them to make money, but why would you take and put what will be in a few more years slum housing,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
And it's not, I'm not gonna say it's cheap housing, it's not cheap, because.
It's not
they're
well
being-
done. It's more that it's not well done.
Exactly, and another point that I wanted to make, I don't know, how long have you lived in Knox County?
Since 1979,
Okay.
except for 2 years in Davidson County.
So you may or may not be aware, I think most people that's here right now has lived in Knox County for quite a while. But back when I was young, which was maybe 5 years ago, we had, two pools, public pools. We had 2 pools. We had a skating rink, we had a putt-putt golf, we had a bowling alley, and now.
A theater.
Well, yeah, we didn't want to go to. we
Now,
don't-
wait a minute, I went to that theater many, many times.
But still yet, before that, it was a real theater, and it showed, decent movies.
Yes.
Oh, you're talking about that theater.
We had, that was in South Knoxville.
Yeah.
All of that was, do y'all remember?
Yes.
I thought that was in
Absolutely.
Seymour, that one was in Seymour, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Chapman Driveway, Chapman Highway
But
Drive.
that's the whole point, is
Okay.
these things go away and they're not replaced with anything, and the
No, but we're gonna eat
community.
it up, we're
Yeah.
gonna eat it up, we're gonna eat up the tax money, putting infrastructure in for developers
Mhm.
that are just gonna take our money
Yeah,
and run.
yeah.
That's not
And
right.
here
It's not
we
very
are.
smart.
And we have nothing, my kids are all grown now, and I'm a grandmother. My grandson's way out here at Bower Ball Field, and as I see it, we are being royally
Yep.
hoodoo.
Well, the thing is too, you may think that there's not foolishness going on. I don't have much.
I don't know if there is or
Right.
isn't, but I'm just
Well,
saying.
I can tell you the proof is in the pudding. So every large development, 100% has been approved. That to me is corruption in itself. You cannot tell me that every large development that they propose is a good one. And I'll give you the example just right up here. The condos that are going in. These people cannot turn left onto Chapman Highway.
Except there is a lane coming out of there, I saw it the other day.
Mhm.
There is a lane coming out of there that is not aimed toward Seymour. Drive
That's a-
by and look.
I just went in there not too long ago, but I'll look again. There was only one turn lane in, and then there was one turn
But
lane
what's
out.
to keep people from coming out of that lane?
Well, this is my point
They
being,
will.
gonna do
They
this.
will.
I asked TDOT, what's the deal here? I said, there's only one way in, one way out, and I said, the traffic is terrible on Chapman. I said, what are they gonna do? He said, oh, don't worry, little lady, you know, they can only turn right. So they're gonna go down to Seymour, do a U-turn, and then come back to go to Knoxville.
They
That's a project that should not be approved, because they can't turn unless you have the proper infrastructure, which is a light somewhere in a mile of there. Then you could do it, but they approve this stuff without any common sense whatsoever, and it has me think, why would you approve that? Same thing with this development across the street here. If there was a housing tract that had 200 houses in it, and a guy came knocking on the commissioner's door and said, hey, we wanna put an industrial park next to that, they would say no, but they're happy to approve a housing development next to the industrial park. What part of that works? That tells me there's corruption, that's all. It's just not dumb people. These are very smart people.
Yes,
They
they
just
are.
ignore the obvious facts. You know, that there should not be a large development right next to an industrial park, sorry.
Dawn,
Just the
I
way
think
that is.
that leads to a deeper problem that I see, and that probably everyone here would agree with. The overdevelopment is a problem, but I think one thing that's bothering our community even more, and not just us, I'm talking about West Knox County, out Tazewell Pike, Corrington. The majority of people have been and are against these massive developments.
Yep.
But there's no consideration of what the majority of people feel. There is no democracy.
No, there isn't any
in what our
democracy.
elected officials are doing, and I think it's the loss of faith. Is up there, right up there with the overdevelopment
Well,
at this
and,
point.
you know, Carson was very arrogant. He knows best for our community. He's out here secretly making all these plans
And
for this
putting money
$20
in
million,
his pocket.
development that we all know is never gonna happen, cause he knows best. We've made it perfectly clear, we will partner with them. Margie's an international landscape designer. We'll partner with them. Let's make it beautiful. Margie offered to do it free of charge. They said no. They don't want us involved in any of it. They don't wanna show us what their plans are. They don't wanna tell us anything.
Because they poisoned the well.
But why is
Why
because
do
they
they not want
know,
her to help?
the same reason they don't want anyone seeing the Save Battlefield signs, cause they don't want people knowing. Once they know what's going on,
Because
they're
Dawn and
going
Margie
to not
poisoned the well
support it.
with Thunder Mountain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today is my anniversary, my 33rd anniversary, so I'm gonna have to, thank you.
Thanks, Andy, for
But,
coming. I
you're very
appreciate it.
welcome.
Thank you, Andy.
You're having lunch with, Daniel. So-
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah.
yeah,